Hey, what are you doing in here? Place is closed.
Counting up for the night. This is my diner.
Right, sure it is. Put the cash down.
Look, I own. Here are the keys. My name's on the paperwork.
Hands behind your back now. You're trespassing and you're going to be booked for burglary.
Come on, man.
Hey, what are you doing in here? Place is closed. Counting up for the night. This is my diner. Greater than right. Sure it is. Put the cash down. Look, I own. Here are the keys. My name's on your paperwork. Hands behind your back now. You're trespassing and you're going to be booked for burglary. Come on, man. You're making greater than Officer Kevin Rowe, a 9-year veteran of the West Side Police Department, made the worst decision of his career when he noticed lights on inside Jamal's diner after closing time and assumed the black man moving inside was committing a crime. He burst through the door with his hand already on his weapon, convinced he was interrupting a burglary. When Jamal Brooks explained that he owned the diner, Rowe refused to believe him and arrested him for trespassing and burglary in front of a regular customer, who knew exactly who Jamal was. What Rowe didn't know is that the business license with Jamal's name was hanging on the wall 2 feet from his face, that the entire wrongful arrest was being recorded from 4 different camera angles, and that his refusal to verify basic facts before slapping handcuffs on a business owner would end his career and cost the city $500,000. Before we go further, what city or country are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where you're tuning in from. If you believe assumptions based on skin color can destroy innocent lives and must be exposed, then make sure you like this video and subscribe. Jamal Brooks had closed the diner's front door at exactly 10 o'clock that Saturday night, just like he did every Saturday. At 44 years old, he had owned Jamal's Diner for 8 years, but his history with the place went back much further than that. 15 years ago, he had started as a dishwasher in this same building when it was called Eddie's Place. He worked his way up to line cook, then head chef, then manager. When the original owner, Eddie, retired and put the diner up for sale, Jamal had scraped together every dollar he could save, took out a small business loan, and bought the place outright. He renamed it, renovated the interior, expanded the menu, and turned it into one of the most popular breakfast and lunch spots in the neighborhood. Tonight had been busy, the kind of Saturday dinner rush that made Jamal grateful for his success, but exhausted by the time the last customer left. His 2 evening employees, Rita and Marcus, had finished their closing duties and clocked out at 10 o'clock, leaving Jamal alone to handle the final tasks he preferred to do himself: counting the register, checking inventory for tomorrow's supply order, making sure the kitchen was spotless, taking out the trash. These quiet moments after closing were when Jamal felt most connected to his business, when he could appreciate how far he had come from that young dishwasher who barely spoke English and dreamed of something bigger. He moved through the empty diner with practiced efficiency, his keys jangling on his belt loop, his apron still tied around his waist with the diner's logo stitched across the front. The overhead lights were on because he was still working, the door unlocked because he hadn't left yet. In the back kitchen, he scraped down the grill one final time, wiped down the stainless steel counters, and organized the walk-in cooler for the morning crew. When he came back out to the front, carrying a bag of trash toward the door, he had no idea that his night was about to turn into a nightmare. Officer Kevin Rowe had been patrolling the West Side District for most of his 9-year career, and he had developed certain habits that he considered good police work. When he drove past Jamal's diner at 10:35 p.m. and saw lights on inside, his first thought wasn't that someone might be closing up. His first thought was that something was wrong. The diner should be dark and locked. Someone being inside after hours meant trespassing, burglary, maybe both. Rowe had 19 civilian complaints in his personnel file, 16 of them involving allegations of racial profiling or excessive force against minorities. Internal Affairs had reviewed 8 of those complaints and found troubling patterns, but nothing had ever resulted in serious discipline. Rowe knew how to write reports that justified his actions, and he knew which supervisors would back him up when questions were asked. He pulled his patrol car into the diner's parking lot and sat there for a moment, watching through the windows. He could see a black man moving around inside, going from the kitchen area to the front counter and back again. To Rowe, this looked like someone searching for valuables. Someone who had broken in and was now trying to find the register or anything worth stealing. The possibility that this was the owner doing normal closing procedures never crossed his mind, because when Rowe looked at that scene, he saw what his biases told him to see. A black man in a closed business after hours meant crime. It was that simple in his worldview, and that assumption was about to destroy his career. Rowe stepped out of his patrol car and approached the front door. He tested the handle and found it unlocked, which confirmed his suspicion in his mind. Unlocked door, lights on, black man inside. This was a burglary in progress. He pushed the door open and walked in with his right hand resting on his service weapon, his body language aggressive and ready for confrontation. For security cameras mounted in different corners of the diner captured his entrance in perfect high definition, recording every dowel of what was about to unfold. Jamal was at the front counter, organizing receipts and preparing to lock up when he heard the door open. He looked up and saw a police officer walking toward him with his hand on his gun, and his first thought was confusion rather than fear. "Hey officer," Jamal said, setting down the receipts. "We're closed for the night, but if you need something, I can—" "Hands where I can see them," Roe barked, cutting him off mid-step away from the counter now. Jamal's confusion deepened, but he raised his hands instinctively, moving away from the counter. "Whoa, okay, what's going on? What are you doing in here?" Roe demanded, his hand still on his weapon. "This place is closed." "I'm closing up," Jamal said carefully, keeping his hands visible. "I own this diner. I was just finishing the night's paperwork." Roe's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "You own this place?" "Yes, sir." "Jamal's diner?" "That's me, Jamal Brooks." He gestured toward the wall behind the counter where a framed business license hung clearly visible. "The license is right there, if you want to see it." Roe glanced at the wall, but didn't really look at the license. He had already decided this was a burglary, and everything Jamal said sounded like the kind of lie suspects told when they got caught. "I need to see some ID," Rose said. "Keep your hands visible and move slowly." Jamal reached carefully into his back pocket and pulled out his wallet. Extracting his driver's license, he handed it to Roe, who studied it for a moment. The address on the license was local. The name was Jamal Brooks, but none of that convinced Roe of anything. Suspects carried ID that didn't make them innocent. "This doesn't prove you own this diner," Rose said, handing the license back. "You could work here. You could be lying. I need to verify your story." "Officer, the business license is on the wall," Jamal repeated, his voice starting to show frustration mixed with concern. "The deed is in my office. I can show you tax documents, utility bills, in my name. Anything you need. Just tell me what you want to see." Outside in the parking lot, a car pulled up. An older black woman named Dorothy stepped out, one of Jamal's regular customers who came in every Saturday morning for coffee and pancakes. She had left her reading glasses on her usual table earlier that evening and was hoping Jamal might still be around so she could retrieve them. When she saw the police car and looked through the diner's front window, she froze. Jamal was standing with his hands up and a police officer was treating him like a criminal. Roe was running Jamal's license through his portable terminal when Dorothy pushed open the front door. "Jamal, what's happening? Are you okay?" Jamal looked toward Dorothy with an expression of relief and exhaustion. "Miss Dorothy, this officer thinks I'm breaking into my own diner." Dorothy's face showed immediate outrage. "Breaking in, officer? This is Jamal Brooks. He's owned this diner for 8 years. I eat here every Saturday." Roe turned toward Dorothy, his expression hardening. "Ma'am, I need you to step outside. This is police business." "Police business?" Dorothy's voice rose. "Arresting a man in his own restaurant is police business. Ma'am, final warning. Leave now or you'll be charged with interference." Dorothy looked at Jamal, who gave her a small shake of his head that said, "Don't make this worse." She backed toward the door reluctantly, but she didn't leave the par. King Lot. She stood outside with her phone out calling someone, her face visible through the window as she gestured urgently while speaking. Inside the diner, Roe's terminal beeped. Jamal's record came back completely clean. No warrants, no arrests, not even a traffic ticket. This should have ended the situation. Should have prompted Roe to apologize and leave. But Roe had committed to this being a crime, had already made the assumption in his mind, and backing down now felt like admitting he was wrong. He couldn't admit he was wrong, not in front of the suspect, and certainly not in front of a witness who was probably calling everyone she knew. "Turn around," Roe ordered, hands behind your back. Jamal stared at him in disbelief. "You're arresting me? You're being detained for trespassing and suspicion of burglary. I own this building." Jamal's voice finally rose with anger and desperation. "The license is on the wall. My customer just told you who I am. What more do you need? Turn around now, or I'll make you turn around." Jamal felt something break inside him, some belief that reason and truth would protect him. He slowly turned around and placed his hands behind his back, knowing that resistance would only make things worse. The metal handcuffs closed around his wrists, tight and cold, and Jamal Brooks stood in by his own diner, arrested by an officer who had decided guilt based on nothing but the color of his skin. Above them, for security cameras captured everything in perfect detail, recording the moment that would cost Officer Kevin Roe his career and prove to the world exactly what assumptions based on race could do to an innocent man's life. Roe walked Jamal toward the front door with one hand gripping his arm, steering him like a suspect being perp-walked out of a crime scene. Jamal kept his head up, refusing to look down in shame, even though humiliation burned through him. Dorothy was still in the parking lot, her phone pressed to her ear, and when she saw Jamal in handcuffs being led out of his own diner, she started yelling, "This is wrong. He owns that place. You're arresting an innocent man." Roe ignored her completely and opened the back door of his patrol car, placing his hand on top of Jamal's head to guide him into the seat. The plastic bench was hard and cold, and the door slammed shut with a heavy finality that made Jamal's chest tighten. Through the window, he could see his diner, the place he had worked 15 years to own, the business that represented everything he had built. Now he was sitting in the back of a police car outside his own front door, arrested for the crime of closing up for the night. Roe walked back toward the diner entrance, and Dorothy stepped in front of him. "Officer, you need to listen to me. That man owns this diner. His name is on everything inside. The business license, the tax certificates, the lease agreement. You just arrested the owner." "Ma'am, I've already warned you about interference," Rose said, his voice cold and dismissive. "Step aside or you're going in the car." 2. Dorothy stepped aside but kept talking. "I'm calling the mayor. I'm calling the city council. I'm calling everyone I know because this is ridiculous." Roe walked back into the diner to secure what he believed was a crime scene. He looked around at the clean kitchen, the organized front counter, the family photos on the wall near the office door. Everything about the space showed ownership and care. But Rose's mind had already constructed a different narrative. He radioed dispatch. "This is Unit 47. I have one subject in custody at Jamal's Diner on 5th Street, trespassing and suspected burglary, requesting a unit to help secure the scene." The dispatch operator's voice came back with a note of confusion. "Copy that. Unit 47, securing now." Roe walked behind the counter and opened the register that Jamal had been counting before the arrest. Cash was still inside, organized by denomination with a handwritten note showing the total for the night's deposits. To Roe, this looked like a burglar who had been interrupted mid-theft. To anyone else, it looked like exactly what it was: a business owner preparing his bank deposit. A second patrol car arrived within 5 minutes. Officer Lisa Chen stepped out and walked toward the diner, and Dorothy immediately approached her. "Officer, please listen. The man in that car owns this diner." The other officer made a mistake. Chen looked at Dorothy, then at Rose's patrol car where Jamal sat in the back seat, then walked inside to find Roe. "What's the situation?" she asked. "Found a subject inside after closing," Rose said. "He claims he owns the place, but couldn't prove it. Had to take him in." Chen looked around the diner and saw the framed business license on the wall. Immediately, she walked closer and read it. "Jamal's Diner licensed to Jamal Brooks. Current and valid." She turned back to Roe with a confused expression. "The business license is right here with his name on it." "Could be stolen," Roe said quickly. "Could be fake. I'm not taking chances." Chen walked to the office door and looked inside. On the desk was a stack of mail, all addressed to Jamal Brooks at this business address. Bills from the electric company, gas company, suppliers. She picked up a framed photo showing Jamal standing in the front of the diner on opening day 8 years ago, holding oversized scissors and cutting a ribbon while a crowd cheered. She brought the photo out to show Roe. "This is him at the grand opening," Chen said quietly. "He's the owner. The woman outside is right." Roe's jaw tightened. He had gone too far to back out now. Had already made the arrest, had already called it in over the radio. Admitting mistake at this point would mean humiliation and probably discipline. "I'm taking him to the station for processing," Rose said. "They can verify everything there." Chen wanted to argue, but knew that challenging a senior officer in the field rarely ended well for the junior officer. She nodded reluctantly. "What do you want me to do here? Lock up the building and secure it as a potential crime scene," Rose said, even though he knew by now there was no crime. Chen took the keys from the counter where Jamal had left them and began turning off lights. She felt deeply uncomfortable with what was happening, but didn't know how to stop it without creating problems for herself. Outside, Dorothy was now on the phone with someone important, her voice carrying through the parking lot as she described the arrest in angry clipped sentences. Roe got into his patrol car and started the engine. Jamal sat in the back seat, his hands cuffed behind him, watching through the window as Officer Chen locked up his diner and turned off the lights. The last thing he saw before Roe pulled out of the parking lot was Dorothy standing under the streetlight, still on her phone, still fighting for him, even as he was driven away. The drive to the police station took 12 minutes, and neither Roe nor Jamal spoke a single word. In the silence, Jamal thought about the security cameras he had installed 3 months ago, the ones recording everything in high definition to cloud storage. He thought about Dorothy witnessing the entire arrest. He thought about the business license hanging on the wall that Roe had looked at and dismissed. And he thought about how much this officer's assumption was going to cost him when the truth finally came out. Roe pulled into the station parking garage, unaware that his career had already ended the moment he walked into that diner with his hand on his weapon and his mind made up. The booking area of the West Side Police Department was busy for a Saturday night with 3 other officers processing arrests when Roe walked in with Jamal still in handcuffs. The desk sergeant, a thick-built man named Martinez with 22 years on the force, looked up from his computer and did an immediate double-take when he saw Jamal. "What the hell are you doing back there?" Roe stopped, mid-step, confusion crossing his face. "You know him?" Martinez stood up from his desk and walked around to get a better look. "Know him? I eat at his diner twice a week." "Jamal, what's going on?" Jamal's voice was tight with exhaustion and anger. "Sergeant Martinez, your officer arrested me for breaking into my own diner." The room went quiet. 2 other officers who were processing paperwork looked up. One of them, Officer Davis, recognized Jamal immediately. "Wait, Jamal, from Jamal's Diner on 5th. The breakfast place. That's the one, Jamal said, his eyes never leaving Roe's face. Martinez turned to Roe when his expression had shifted from friendly to serious. Officer Roe, please tell me you verified ownership before you brought him in. Roe's face flushed. He was inside after closing hours. The door was unlocked. I asked for identification, and he couldn't prove he owned the place. Couldn't prove it. Martinez's voice rose slightly. His name is literally on the building. Jamal's Diner. Did you think that was a coincidence? The business license was on the wall 2 feet from where you were standing. Jamal added quietly, I told you 3 times I owned the place. A regular customer told you. You chose not to believe any of it. Officer Davis walked over, shaking his head in disbelief. Roe, everyone knows Jamal. He's been in business for 8 years. The mayor eats there. Half the city council has breakfast there on Wednesdays. I didn't know that, Roe said deaf.